All right, it looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been there, episode 11 of season 2. I can't wait to talk to my guest today. Before I do need to make it a quick apology. I was supposed to have a show last week. Life happens and things happen. Wasn't able to do it. We'll get that rescheduled and on with that. But so excited because this person that I get to talk to today, we're talking off air. So much in common, and we didn't even know it. I say this every time, but one of the perks of doing this show is not only do I get to interview people that I grew up with overseas, but I get to meet new people that have lived the same kind of lifestyle that I did. This person was not in Taipei, as most of you that watch this know. This person was not in Hong Kong. Well, I know that. Take that back. You were in Hong Kong, but she spent the majority of her time in Manila, Philippines. And I can't wait to talk to that because we just realized we know some similar people, even though you and I have never met. But she's not just a TCK. She's a lot of things, specifically a mom. Let's get that out of the way first of all, right? And she's also a award-winning musician, and I can't wait to talk to her about that either. Miss Angela Soffe, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we barely got to talk before we went live, and I can't wait to kind of dive deep into a lot of things with you. But thank you for doing the show. And usually I start these just by letting the guests kind of introduce themselves. So I get your story. I lived it. I did it. Excuse me. But I want you to kind of just explain who you are and where you kind of. I always love this. You and I talked about this before we went live, where home is. But yeah, if you don't mind, just kind of telling everybody about your background and who you are, really. So it's all you right now. So go ahead, Angela.
Sure. My name is Angela Soffe, or Sophie, yeah. And I, just starting way back, I was born in the United States to an American father, and my mother's from Argentina. And their story is like a whole other long story, so I won't get into it. But we moved after I was born, my family moved to Boston, Massachusetts, and my dad was in business school, and after he graduated, he was recruited by Avon Cosmetics to open their first branch in China, in Hong Kong. And we had, there were like, 4 kids in the family. My mom was expecting my baby sister. And so we packed up and moved to Hong Kong. And I was about 7 years old at the time. And my family, we spoke Spanish at home early on, but then when we moved to Hong Kong, I think my mom was concerned about us not knowing English because just we're in China now. And anyway, so she cut back on the Spanish quite a bit, but my baby sister was born there. And then a year later, we moved to Manila, the Philippines. And I spent the rest of my childhood and growing up years in Manila. And my dad my family loved it so much that my dad just would change jobs so that we could stay. So every time they tried to move him to the States, he would say, no, thanks. And then he would help open another company. So he helped open like Sara Lee products, Avon, and then a whole bunch of like cosmetic lines and different companies that were there. So he was really just sort of a jack of all trades businessman. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I went to college at Brigham Young University in the States. And that was my first time living in the States since I was, quite young. And I'm sure we'll get into that, but that was definitely a shock.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I fell in love with music, sort of, American music, I would say, like folk tunes in college, and began touring and traveling with different bands and groups, and ended up doing a mission for the church that my family went to. And I moved to Brazil for a year and a half and met my husband there. And then, and then when I came back to the States, I finished up college and got married and started a family. And so now I have 3 kids, and my husband and I live in Washington State, which is closer to the North Pole than I want to be.
Yeah. Are you in Yakima? Is that right? Is that what I read?
Girl. Yes, I'm in Yakima, if you've ever been there.
I have, yeah, a couple times.
beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. My buddy and I actually did a little road trip up there one time, and so I've stayed a couple nights in Yakima. I can say that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
great. Yeah,
no, I
so
appreciate
that's
that.
the
Yeah,
condensed fast version.
no, I appreciate that. No, that's it's so funny because you and I were talking that we both went to Hong Kong International School, right? So
Mhm.
and I missed you by a couple of years. I'm a little bit older than you. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot. But I'm trying to make myself feel better. Yeah, just a pinch. But no, so let's get right to it then. What is the you're someone who grew up exactly like I did. You're also a business brat. That's kind of the label that we get kind of stuck with. But what does the concept of home mean to you then, in terms of just growing up the way we did, and then even jumping all over the world and coming back to the States? We'll get into acclimation in a little bit, but what does the concept of home mean to you?
Um, I've thought about this so much because I feel like so many places are home,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like for us
Yeah.
who bounce all over the place. But for me, it's really where my people are, because there are places where I felt like it's home and I go back to it and my people aren't there. And
Define my people. You mean your immediate family, or who do you mean?
just your loved ones, people that are really, that you feel like you have a really close tie to. Because I feel very much like Manila is still my home, but
Yeah,
often
I
it's
get that.
because my high school friends are still there. Every time I go back, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
it just feels like home still, because there are still people there.
Yeah.
But there are other places where I've lived and I just, haven't stayed connected, or for whatever reason, and it doesn't feel quite like home.
Yeah. Where are your parents at now? Are they stateside? Are they back
So
overseas? Or?
they actually have their retirement residency in Manila. They stayed in
Okay.
Manila
Wow.
after we
Wow.
all left.
Yeah.
And my dad has a business. His business partner's from Singapore.
Yeah.
And so they run a business out of Manila and out of the States. And so when COVID happened, I think they realized that it was either stay in Manila forever, like for,
Mhm.
the next foreseeable future, or like go to the States and kind of quarantine with family. So they went to the States to be with my siblings during quarantine. So they're still here in the
Okay.
States. Yeah.
You, I mean, obviously COVID kind of threw a kind of a wrench in a lot of people's plans, but do you get back much? Do you ever go back, or how does that?
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy, but we went back in February,
Oh,
right
wow.
before. Yeah. We took the kids and we went back to Manila and like the different places that we grew up. I actually grew up, my dad had a sailboat. So he still has that boat from my childhood. And so we went back there, and it's in like a southern province.
Mhm.
And like, it was so awesome. But then it was like 2 weeks later that school closed and everything. So we just missed it. We were so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's so you grew up the way I did. We both lived internationally for the significant chunk of our not only younger years, but our adolescence as well. What can you tell us regarding pros and cons about growing up the way we did, about growing up internationally? Because you went to an international school, so did I. Multiple international schools, so did I. So what are the pros and cons, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah. So many pros. Like, I can't think of very many cons.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was like, I feel like so much of who I am was like formulated at that time. Number one, just seeing yourself as a citizen of the world, and
Mhm.
that you are no better or worse than anyone else around you.
Yeah.
That sense of equality is it's so ingrained when every single country almost in the world is represented in your school. Of our school was quite small,
Mhm.
and so that sense of community, global community, um, has really, like, I don't know. It's just, I've carried it with me forever, and that's a huge pro that I don't know how else you would get that. So I love that. I love just like exposure to so many different types of people, learning like tolerance and appreciation for different cultures and foods, and the courage to travel and the courage to try new things. And like, I just think there's so much like there's a skill set that you develop when you are forced to be in uncomfortable situations over and over and over again. Then when you become an adult, you have a lot more confidence in yourself and your ability to figure things out.
Love that answer, because that's exactly how I viewed it. It was I think we were raised pretty similarly, in that my parents never said we were better or worse. That's not what this is about. It's like you're in someone else's land, you respect their culture. You don't have to love everything, because you won't, but you're here, accept people for who they are. It's not about being better. It's not about being worse. It's just expose yourself to new cultures, food, everything, you name it. But you're in their country, and respect their values. And yet that opened my eyes to so many things at such a young age, as I think it did for you as well. It sounds like. By the way, I have to throw this out there. I'm not supposed to like you at all, because we are rivals. Let's be very clear. Right. So those of you that are back. Yeah, those of you that are watching, I went to Taipei American School in Hong Kong. Well, we're okay in the HKIS department. But as soon as you went to Manila and as soon as I went to Taipei, I'm a proud Taipei American School alumni, as you are a proud International School of Manila alumni. Yeah, you were rivals, let's be honest. But it's so funny, because even that aside, I mean, we grew up so similarly, and so did so many people that I still keep in touch. We talked about, I asked this before we went live, and for those of you that aren't watching, we were spoiled just a pinch, let's be honest, because we got to go not just like state tournaments. Our state tournaments consisted of getting on an airplane and flying to different countries. And it wasn't just sports, it was music, it was art, all that stuff. When I say spoiled, it never felt that way. It just, that's what life was, right? We didn't know any different. But yeah, the fact that you understand that and know what IASIS is, that puts a smile on my face, period. So, but yeah, I'll accept you as a former rival, so to speak, to ISM. So,
well, thanks.
Right? Yeah, I wanted to throw that out there, but no, I appreciate that, and we did have similar stories. So, no negatives. What were maybe the negatives about growing up internationally?
I think I picked up like an intestinal problem.
There's that, right? Yeah, there's that. Definitely that. Okay, well,
that's actually gotten rid of.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah, that. I would say maybe. I don't know. I was trying to think like what, like maybe being far away from my grandparents, my American grandparents. I was a little jealous of my cousins in the States that had full access and all the cool stuff I thought that they had, like they were in fashion like 2 years before we were. And, it was just like, it was just different. But as an adult, like in retrospect, I see those as like bonuses. Like it's a gift to not have everything and not have it always easy. I was just telling my kids this morning, actually, because my daughter was like, Mom, you had it so easy. You had a pool in your backyard and the coconuts would fall in it. And that's like true. And we would like swim for the, whatever. But I was like, you know what? We also didn't have power. Yeah. Like we didn't even have electricity. It was rationed. Like probably half of my childhood. I didn't have, I did my homework by a candle or by one of those lanterns, that you carry around the house, and we, no air conditioning. Like there were also hardships that I guess you'd say there were cons, but I don't see them as cons anymore. Like they were really character building for me.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that, like it probably
had to be tough.
Yeah. It made you who you are. Right. Mm-hmm. So I love that. And we dealt with the same thing. I mean, we were in Taipei, and I remember the power going on a lot, especially during typhoon season, things like that. I remember one of our houses that we lived in, the roof started leaking during a typhoon, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and my dad was overseas traveling, and my mom was home, and my brother and I had to get up on the roof and plug the hole and all that stuff. So I mean, yeah, it's everybody's got their stuff, but yeah, there definitely are cons to it, and I can relate to that. Where did you come back to the States in the summertime then?
Sometimes we did. Yeah.
Okay. Where would you go back to?
To Utah.
Okay. So yeah, you and I have that.
Holiday, Utah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. You were right down the street then, because my grandparents lived technically, it's changed so many times, right at the base of Cottonwood Heights, which I'm sure. Yeah. They were in Murray, but it's changed, like their zip code changed so many times in terms of where they were. People that are watching that haven't been to Utah have no idea what we're talking about, but you and I do. Yeah. So, but they lived in Murray / they never moved. It's just their house kept getting rezoned.
Yeah.
So they were. Do you remember the Cottonwood Mall?
Yes.
Okay, they lived about a mile from the Cottonwood Mall.
That's
So
where we would go with my cousins.
I was
And
just
they
going to
would
say that.
say, "You're so out of style."
My brother and I would spend our summers here in the States pretending to be American kids because we had no concept of, we didn't know
Yes.
anybody. But we would go, my grandparents lived about a mile and a half from the Cottonwood Mall. And so summers were spent, pretending to be Americanized, going to the mall and just walking around for hours and, eating the Sabora pizza in the food mart and things like that. So, but that was common. It sounds like it was common on your end too. So that's so funny. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, it is what it is, but that's totally get that. Like we watch MTV on TV in the summers, and I'd watch a little bit of, sports and things like that. But yeah, most of our time was just spent wandering aimlessly around doing laps at the Cottonwood Mall and Fashion Place too. So.
In Fashion Place Mall. Yeah, we would go, and I remember I loved that I blended in. Like as a 13-year-old, it was so nice to just not stand out for about 3 months, 2 months, a few weeks.
I can relate. Yeah. I'm 6'2" now, and I was 5'10" in 8th grade. So I mean, I was overseas. I'm ridiculously tall. Here I kind of blend in as well. So it's that's so funny that you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's keep going then. You've traveled and moved a lot. Is it we talked about blending in then, in terms of ease, I should say, is it easier for you because of your background to blend into any culture or place?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I just feel that way. Like I feel unafraid. I don't feel trepidation about like going anywhere except maybe somewhere where I might feel physically unsafe. But I feel like excited and I guess comfortable talking to anyone, trying anything. It makes it really fun to travel, I think, or be in new places and like try and relate to people because like I'm interested. I'm not afraid of what like that I might not fit in. I already know I don't fit in.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you on that. So yeah. No, that's a great answer, and it's an honest answer because I can totally relate to that too. It's one of those weird perks. I have great friends here in Utah. I have great friends in Idaho. I went to Boise State. We talked about that before we got online. Went to a small school in North Carolina right from getting back in terms of acclimation, which we're about to get into. But it's so funny. There's times that I feel completely Americanized just because I've been on and off back in the States 20 plus years. But the core of who I am, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe you can't, but I still feel like my soul is back overseas sometimes. It's who I am. It's where I'm comfortable. The people that I grew up with, as I think you can relate to this, being at ISM as long as you were, I still talk to my high school friends from Taipei American School, and I can feel completely at ease. These are the people that I don't have to explain myself to, right? And I
get you.
Yeah, it's not a right or wrong. We pick up and we just talk life now. It's not about, we all kind of check in. We've been, one blessing about COVID is that we've been able to Zoom. And there's about, a group of us about 15 strong that we all hop on the Zoom when we can. We haven't done it in a while. Those of you that are watching, I hope we get to do it soon. But you don't have to explain yourself. They totally understand where you're coming from. That's not even talked about. Like the Taipei days, we get jealous of the people that are still in Taipei, and they'll send pictures, they'll send videos, things like that about Taipei. And that's where the jealousy obviously starts. But at the same time, they totally relate to where you're coming from, the obstacles, the positives, you name it. They totally get it. And I'm going to guess that do you still keep in touch with a lot of ISM people, International School Manila people?
I do. My best friend in high school, we were in like 4th grade all the way, like still besties. She was my maid of honor and I was her maid of honor, that kind of thing. And she's actually Filipina, and and she went to college in the States, but she moved back and she's raising her family back in Manila. And I get, she sends me pictures and I'm like, just like wishing I could be there. And but I mean, I was there, like I told you in February. When we went back, I took the kids right before everything shut down. And I had a great time with like my senior prom date, hanging out with his wife and my husband's there. Like it was just such a great group of friends, that we all kept in touch with. It's just been awesome.
I love it. Yeah, my best man at my wedding is my been basically my best friend since 6th grade, and I was the best man at his wedding as well. I'm the godfather of his daughter, all that stuff. So I totally relate to that. It's that international connection. So,
Yeah.
but no, I appreciate you sharing that. That means a lot. But I do want to dive into acclimation because this one always hits home a lot. Because when I first moved back to the States, I hadn't lived in the States in 10 years, which is a long time, but doesn't always sound like a long time. But when you're 7 when you leave and 17 when you come back, growing up the way we did, things are a little bit twisted and different, right? But you look the part. I was 6. I played baseball at a small school in North Carolina. I looked the part, acted the part ish, right? So, but I struggled intrinsically. There, and then there's things I still struggle with. Just trying to figure out who I am and where I fit in. But how was your acclimation? Period. You went to BYU, which I'm well aware of here in Utah. But how was that from living overseas so long until going down to Provo, right? And then living that lifestyle. So,
Yeah, to be honest, it was like I went to Mars.
Yep.
It was just like so insane. And the crazy thing about it is that you look like a Martian on the outside, but you're an Earthling on the inside, right?
Yeah.
Like I felt so Asian, even down to the way that I spoke. Like I speak much more American now, but people would tell me that I sounded really odd. They're like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you talk normally, Yeah. And so I would work on my accent and I would work on like my syntax and sounding like, I wanted to blend in but at the same time I didn't, I wanted it to be known that I wasn't like everyone else. And it was, like an identity crisis, I would say, that first college semester, because I felt like I was something on the outside and something on the inside, and those two didn't match up. And I just wanted to go home.
Yeah. No. Did you go back at Christmas time, or how did that work?
Back at Christmas, and I told my parents, I was like, what if I go to like a school in Hawaii? Because BYU had a Hawaii extension.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I actually applied to BYU Hawaii because I had heard that there were other Asians there and that I would feel more comfortable, I would fit in better. And I was like, yeah, and it's not cold. Like I just hated being cold. Yeah. And so I applied to BYU Hawaii and I got in, but I met a guy.
Oh, there you go.
Right? Accepted. So I stayed, and then I ended up graduating, but acclimation is a serious thing. Like it's not, I think it's not to be taken lightly when someone's going through that, because, on so many levels, you're bumping up against who you think you're supposed to be and who you really are, and trying to find that happy place in the middle. That just takes time. It just takes so much time to figure out.
I can relate. I've said this on the show. When I first moved to North Carolina, I went to a small school in North Carolina. I played baseball, all that stuff, but I would get linked into these groups of the exchange students. And the funny thing is, at first, like most people would think, well, aren't you offended by that? I'm like, no, like I totally related to them way more than I related to the locals that were going to the school. So, I mean, I loved it. Like I was 6'2" white guy, right? But I would get the president of the school always had like once a month would always have these meetings for all the international students and, the exchange students, so to speak. And I would get invited and people kept thinking that I was out of place. I'm like, no, this is right. This is right. I promise you. This is like, because as soon as I would show up, they're like, I think you're in the wrong place. I'm like, no, like these are my people. I totally can relate to what they're going through more so than what these locals are going through. So I think it's the same kind of concept. It sounds like the same concept that you have done a bit ago. So
yeah, I tried to join the Asian club.
Yeah. They didn't accept you or what happened?
Well, I think there's a difference between Asian and like Asian American. Like I didn't know anything. I didn't know what Asian American was. I just thought, I don't know. I didn't really understand like the nuances here in the States, like just even culturally, like how things work. And so they were like, I don't know if you'd feel comfortable here. I'm like, of course I feel comfortable here. Right. And it was really interesting and funny now because, my roommates would make fun of me for just like, I would just make rice rice and sauce and live on that. I didn't know how to cook anything. And then if I did cook, it was usually like rice and soy sauce.
Sounds like we had the same college experience, 100%.
Yeah. So, and then just culturally, like I would sit next to people too close.
Oh yeah.
So we don't sit very close together, and it's offensive if you don't sit right next to each other.
Yeah.
Like in a movie theater, you wouldn't leave a seat. That would be rude.
Yeah.
You sit right next to someone. Otherwise, it's like saying that they smell bad or something. So I would sit right next to my roommate or right next to someone at the library.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't go over well. So little things like that were hard.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm laughing with you, not at you, because I can totally relate to that. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the fact that your parents are still, well, I guess they're here right now, but they still, Manila's home, basically. Let's be honest, right? Manila's home. Yeah. I want to make a switch because I really want to spend a quality amount of time talking about you now, right? And I want to talk about the music side of you. Let's talk music if you're okay with that, because this is something I can't wait to talk about. You're an award-winning singer, musician. Have you always been musical? Was that always the dream? Like, explain that to me.
No, it was not always the dream. The funny thing is that I always loved playing the piano. Yeah. Like I begged my mom for piano lessons, and she would put me with these, super intense teachers that, I had 2 lessons a week. And, in Hong Kong, I had to walk through Stanley Market.
Oh, man. You're killing me.
I had to walk down through Stanley twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Where did you live? I got to ask, where did you live in Hong Kong?
Chung Hom Kok.
Where?
Chung Hom Kok.
Yep. Okay. So we were down in Repulse Bay, Burnside Estates. As soon as you would come around the corner and those townhouses, all white townhouses. Yes. Yeah, we were in the 5th one from the left, B5. It's crazy that I still remember that.
So we were in these like kind of townhome condo things up. So around the corner from Repulse Bay, up on it was called Chung Hom Kok, and it was right above Stanley Market.
Yep.
And my mom
used to play my little league games in there. There was at the time I was there when the British were still in control of Hong Kong. We would go to a British military base and play our little league games there in Stanley. That's why I bring that up in Stanley. Yeah. I was just thinking about Stanley last night, actually. It's so funny you say that. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, this is a total tangent, but I think people will appreciate this. My mom found me a British piano teacher that was highly recommended, but she lived in Stanley Market. And just for context, Stanley Market was like, imagine like 100 years ago, a market that's like got these draped things, and you walk through these little alleys, and there's like a Buddhist temple and like someone selling ice cream and like
little soccer game going off to the side. Yeah.
And then like dogs and cats running around, and like it was like a maze. And I was like 7 years old, and every day or twice a week I walked down there by myself, and she would give me money to buy ice cream to reward myself on the way back. So that was kind of my intro to piano.
Yeah.
And then when we got to Manila, I just started, kept playing, and I did like competitions. Like I did IASIS for music. Yes. Yeah. I did like vocal, and I did music IBH because we had the IB program.
Yep.
So really like piano playing, classical piano, and sort of like new age stuff was my thing. And I did some singing in choirs and things like that. But I really loved, at the time, I just really loved, like, I would take my dad's video camera, and I loved to give people tours of our house.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I wanted to be a tour guide when I grew up, because I would see these people like taking us whenever we'd go somewhere, and there was like a tour guide that would show us like, the temple in Bali and like the story behind it and the ghosts. And I was like, that's like a dream job. I would love that. So I still actually think I would love to be a docent someday. Like I can imagine myself being an old lady, like doing tours of like a museum or something. But it wasn't until I got to college, and I was studying journalism actually, but doing a minor in music, that I was coming out of this opera audition, and I saw this band performing, like practicing, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun. Yeah. And my brother asked me to get the phone number of one of the girls playing. so I kind of was like talking to her because he thought she was cute, and I just like was like, how do I get involved in this? This looks so fun. And they were like, you know what, you need to play an instrument. And anyway, the rest is history, but I just started playing American folk music. Okay. Do you see my dog back there?
I do, and that's what I was actually going to smile because my door's shut. Usually my dog makes an appearance too, so that's awesome. I love it. What's your dog's name?
His name is Baloo.
Okay, I thought it would be Mabuhay, right? I thought that'd be Mabuhay. That's all I ever learned when I was in Manila, because it means hello and goodbye, right? It means like everything.
Yeah, I actually wrote a song called Mabuhay.
Did I miss that one? Because I listened to like all your whole thing.
It's not out. I have a lot of music that I don't release.
Okay, no, that's all right. That's all right. Well, you kind of just pinched on that. Like, describe the music you make right now? Because the way I listened to the whole Second Wind album, you know, and I was awesome. First of all, we talked about that before we went live, but it kind of has that country folk, like a little bit of rock feel to it. Is that the vibe you're going for?
Yeah. So the music that I do is called Americana, and it's really under the, I guess, what you would say, you know, folk or country umbrella. And you have, you have like folk and roots and some sort of like rock sometimes. And then you have Americana, and Americana is really just like, it's a modern folk. It's like a little bit poppy and rock, but it's using sort of like traditional elements, if that makes sense.
Totally. To me, it does. I mean, I don't know if you can tell. See that guitar there?
Yeah.
It's got a lot of dust on it, and I've been trying. I played when I was really young. My mom's actually watching this, and she can vouch for this. But when we were living in Chicago, my dad was with McDonald's in the corporate headquarters of McDonald's or in Chicago. I would play when I was 5-6 years old, and I kept begging to play the guitar, and so they got me lessons, and I played. I was pretty good, but then we moved overseas, and I completely stopped. And that guitar sits there as a reminder. My wife's dad, my father-in-law, he can play anything with strings, and he's so damn good. And so it's embarrassing. He's trying to get me to learn chords again. So every time we go over to their place, we he wants to jam, and I'm so apologetic in person, either way. But I'm trying to get back into it. It's got a lot of dust on it, so I need to wipe that dust off and kind of go there. But no, it's impressive. Yeah, but who were your musical influences then growing up? I mean, is there somebody that sticks out, or how does that?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because my first exposure to Americana music, folk music, was not until college. Okay. I would say the closest thing was like maybe Neil Diamond, my dad listened to.
Sweet Caroline, there we go.
Yeah, some John Denver,
There you go.
I was really raised on a steady diet of like Les Mis and Enya and Yanni. Wow. Like totally not in the arena that I'm in.
I was gonna say that's all like dentist music. Every time you go to the dentist, those are
my family would blast on my dad's boat, and we would have these speakers, and they would blast, Sail Away, like Enya, UB40. I mean,
there you go.
It was just random Pavarotti, and at the time, I think just being in Manila, like I listened to so many different types. Like we were listening to like the local bands, but then also like Nirvana and Green Day, and like just like the American influences that were coming out.
Oops, did you freeze? Uh-oh. She may have frozen. Let's see if she's okay. That's funny though. She talks to those of you that are watching still. I hope she comes back here. But it's funny to hear her talk about the American influences, because those of you that are watching and lived in Taipei, the whole ICRT thing kept us pretty in line with the American culture back in the day. Let's see if she comes back. She's completely frozen. Her dog is sound asleep too. But yeah, if you're watching, feel free to ask questions too. Submit those in the little chat box. I don't know if you can see it, but this is wild. It's funny because obviously went to Manila as a TAS athlete, Taipei American School athlete. I think I went 6 times in 2 years. So between my junior and senior year, but I love, the people of the Philippines that, we would go, we went, I remember going as a kid just to travel and in terms of holidays, things like that. But Manila got to be kind of second home. So we would go there a lot because of its closeness to Taipei. Let's see if she gets back in here. But yeah, the people in Manila, first off, completely musically, inclined. They know what they're doing. So let's see if she can. I'm talking to you right now. Let's see if we can get her back on. But yeah, it's pretty wild to think that I've never met Angela in person, but yeah, the stories she keeps telling, I keep smiling. And those of you that are watching that grew up the way we did, I'm gonna guess you're smiling too. But it's pretty wild to think that so many similarities. I totally understand what she's going through still. But I'm gonna try to invite her back, and let's see if we can get her back real quick. So it must have been a Wi-Fi issue. So just stay with us. We'll get her back here in just a second. But hold on one second. Let me send the link one more time. So if you do have questions, though, feel free to reach out and let me know. But anyway, yeah. So that's she grew up in Manila. We would go. I remember playing volleyball there and basketball there. My senior year, softball / baseball. Yeah, we went a couple times and definitely had a good time in Manila. It's a good place. So before we went live, I asked her if she knew some of the people that I knew from ISM, and she definitely did. So the wild trip too is that she's got the Utah connection. Those that watch the show, I'm not originally from here. My wife's from here, but yeah. Let's see if she logs back in here. But yeah, if you have any questions or want to speak directly, I'm hoping this is going to put her on the spot a little bit, but I'm hoping she actually performs one of her songs. I think you see the website address where it says AngelaSoffe.com. You need to check that out because it's got a lot of her music on there. Oh, looks like she's back.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, good. Can you hear me okay?
There is like a terrible, crazy storm going on and lights are like coming on and off. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. No, well, yeah, it's Yakima. It rains in Washington just a little bit, so we're all good. You're fine. You're fine. I was just getting to brag about the Philippines because I went so many times when I was overseas. It kind of got to be second nature. I remember this is kind of a funny story, but when we went my senior year, we'd been, I think I'd been like 6 times in 2 years, which a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes, and I meant it like in a positive way. But I remember telling the bus driver how to get back to ISM. The old ISM, because I think you guys built a new school. But I'd been so many times that I was able to like take this road, not that road. And he looked at me like, "What? You don't live here?" I'm like, "I know, but I've been here 6 times in 2 years. I know exactly how to get there." So,
yeah.
But yeah, we were just talking about influences. I think before
yes.
kind of put you out. But yeah, in terms of keep going, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so that's it. It was like I feel like my musical education was really like piecemealed. My mom plays the Paraguayan harp beautifully because she was born and raised in Argentina, and she had this Paraguayan harp teacher, and so she would play all the time. And my sisters and I.
We may have frozen up again. Let's see. Angela, you there? All right. This is apparently a rain delay in the state of the great state of Washington, especially in the Yakima area. Let's see if we can get her back. My apologies. Now I am going to force her to actually perform a song. That's on her. So if you're watching, we'll see if she'll do that. She's definitely got a piano in the background and a couple guitars. So let's see if we can get her back. So I don't know if she can hear me or not. You gotta love Wi-Fi, folks. I hope you're you're still with us here. Let's see if I can get her back. Okay, she just logged out, so you're stuck with me. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free send something in the comment section. Let's see if we can get her back. We have about 20 minutes before we call this a day either way, but let's see if she gets back, and let's see if she'll maybe perform a song. And she's pretty interesting though. I got to be honest. I mean, someone who grew up like I did, but she got married young and had some kids and started a family and all that stuff, and then she actually went back to music. She just got back from Nashville, and she just recorded a new album. But I do recommend, if you have a time to, like I said, I think I've got it posted. Yeah, angelasoffe.com. If you could go check that out, you'll be able to see a little bit of what her music's about. And I recommend the song Rocks. I don't know if you can get to that, but it's pretty impressive, especially with all the struggles and the weirdness in today's world. Let's see. There she is again. All right. Strike two. I'm a baseball guy.
If it goes out again, there's like wind blowing everywhere, and it just flickers. The internet's flickering in and out.
No worries. No worries. Your dog seems more concerned than I'm worried about. There you go. Well, let's jump. I threatened when you were gone, though. I meant to ask you this before we go live, and you can say no. It's totally fine. I know you're tired. You just got back from Nashville, but I was going to put you on the spot and see if you'd actually be willing to do a song for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. We'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to jump right to that just yet, but good, because you didn't see this because you were off for a second, but I threatened to say, like, I'm going to make her do a song now that she's gone twice. So, let's talk about the fact that growing up overseas, did that play a part, or does that play a part in any of your the music you make or the songs you write?
I feel like everything and I'm sure you can relate to this too, like everything that you create at this point is accumulation of who you are. And so absolutely, like, my childhood informs what comes out of me. I think that's just like, it's part of my foundation. So I would say yes, I'm definitely influenced by how I grew up. I don't really know how, like, I haven't dissected which parts are,
I can tell you which parts. I gotta be honest with you. I told you, I'm not lying. I listened to your music before we went live, and the song Rocks, the lyrics to Rocks, totally, to me, it hit home. And when I say home, here we go again, right? The Asian connection. And it's also, the reason I'm bringing Rocks up is because I was listening to the lyric, obviously the song, and then listening to the lyrics specifically. That's so what we need right now in the world. I love that song. And I hadn't heard it, and I listened to it 3 or 4 times before we went live. But yeah, that song rocks. No matter what genre you're into, I hope people that are watching give it a listen, because it's so significant in the world we're living in today. It's not about, where you're from and all that stuff. It's just people are people, right? And I think that gets so lost right now.
Yeah.
We're so eager to point the finger and point the blame, and like, just be people. It's just a human experience. It's not so much about better or worse. I talked about that earlier, but I love that song specifically because of the lyrics. So I'm gonna kind of nudge you. I don't know if you can see my shoulder. I'm nudging you. Maybe that's the song we do later.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to play that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think there's so many nuggets of like wisdom or information that we pick up in our childhoods, for good or bad. But I definitely feel like I was taught that way, to see people as people. Actually, I don't even know if it was even said. It was just like a given, like, of course, and I have that sort of course mentality in everything that I do. Like, well, of course you're going to treat people this, with equality, because it doesn't serve you to not do that. It's like, we're all essentially the same. We just, come from different backgrounds, and why does that matter? So, yeah. So remind me of your original question.
That's all right. No, that was just about the concept of how music, the way you grew up. Does that influence the songs you write, the music you make, all that stuff? Yes.
Yeah. So it does. I've written a lot of songs, sort of in a cathartic way, that address the inner angst that I had about not fitting in, being Caucasian in a Caucasian society and feeling very much a misfit, like I didn't really belong anywhere in the world. So I've written a lot of music about that and about home. I've never actually released any of it. I'm probably because I wasn't aware of that audience really, that would relate to that. But yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an audience. Trust me on that. There's definitely an audience. I'm one of them, right? So I totally can relate to that. So
yeah,
maybe that's album number 3 or 4 or 5. But yeah.
Oh, I just finished cutting album number 3.
Yeah, talk about that, because that was my next question actually. Because you just got back from Nashville, right?
I did, yeah. So I'm making a record in Nashville that's coming out probably in September. I'll be doing releases, along the way, like singles. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be really different from anything else I've done. It's still under the Americana umbrella, I would say, but it's quite different. It's a lot more pop forward leaning. Mm-hmm. And it's got a lot of heavy themes. Like if you like the song Rocks,
I do.
It's like 10 songs just like that.
That's all right. I love it.
So no fluff in this one. It's pretty, wouldn't say heavy, but it's heavy themes addressed in a very thought out way. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about it. I think that, it's taken so much of like my heart and my energy to create this, and I'm creating it with a team that's equally as invested in it. And I just feel like it's really awesome and really fun to be making stuff with people that also like believe in the vision and,
Well, it's needed right now. We need a little bit of hope. So I appreciate you doing that. My last question before I get to the last 3 that I always ask, and then you are going to perform, right? Is that I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, if the wind, it looks like the wind's slowing down.
We're okay right now. Yeah, we stayed online for a little while. But you're a mom of 3. Do your kid? I don't know how old your kids are, but do they understand how you grew up in the whole music thing? Are they with it yet, or do they understand it?
Yeah, my youngest is 7 or 8. She just turned 8. I have an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 14-year-old, and they're old enough to know. They've been to the Philippines. They've been many places, and I try to. I know it's not always like financially possible for us to take 5 people around the world, but I try to prioritize that over like maybe other things that we'd want to spend money on, because I feel like it's really important. I want to show my kids. I want to show them what's beyond their borders. And so rather than just telling them, I try as often as I can to take them. And they've been fantastic. I think it's broadened their worldview already as kids, even just for a couple of weeks here and there. And on the music, I think they know that, it's my way of like giving to this world. My contribution is through my music, and so they let me take my time for it. Usually.
Yeah, you're still mom. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're still mom. But I gotta brag about that, because we've already talked about this. I'm a little bit older than you, but I truly respect the hell out of you. The fact that, you've done your thing, you definitely have some kids and your husband and all that. You've got that side of your life, but you weren't afraid to go back and chase this dream. And I think that's something that it should be mentioned and applauded, because you're never too, life is funny. You're never too old to chase that dream. And I respect the hell out of you for doing that. So
thank you. Yeah. I think it's a terrible script that people tell and say, to themselves and to other people, that you're too old or too young or too this or too that, because, we need to be creating and innovating until our last breath. That's the only way our world's going to be better, is if we're coming up with great new ideas all the time. And so we owe it to ourselves and to our communities to be like present and making things. And so I don't see age as any sort of indicator or factor that should be even considered when you want to create something, because we need that more than ever. We need people to step up and be making cool things instead of, spending time criticizing other people.
I love it. Let me just simply say this, and I'm not trying to burst your bubble here or make you, put you on a super big pedestal, but the world needs more Angela Soffes, because I agree with you. I'm older than you, and I've said that now 4 times, I think, but I still, you still have to dream. We're not dead, right? And we're not even in a weird, no, there's still a lot of life to live. And I think the second you close a door on any kind of dream, it's not okay. Live a little bit, we, and I think a lot of that stems from how we grew up, maybe, but,
yeah. Right. Well, I think about travel, right? Mm-hmm. The reason that we love travel so much is not because we just snap our fingers and we're there. It's like the process of getting there. It's the packing, and then like the planning and the anticipation, and then getting there, and then doing something for several days on end, something different. Like, we don't want to just have it handed to us. Right. We want to plan it out. And so every step of the way is the fun. That's where the fun is. And so I guess I see my own, career path. Like, when you're just starting out, like, that's also fun. Mm-hmm. And where I'm at, making my first record in Nashville, that's also fun. And when I get to X, Y, and Z, wherever I'm going, that's going to be fun too. And so it's all just like awesome. Mm-hmm. And there's no like better or worse. It's like, wow, I get to experience every part of this journey, every part of this like trip, this fun adventure. And it's all awesome.
Oh, it's definitely a journey. And I love everything about what you're saying. So I usually wrap these up because I'm not letting you off the hook. You're going to play something live, I hope. So, but I always finish these interviews with the same 3 questions. And I want to make sure we have time for you to play a song. But what is something most people don't know about you?
They probably don't know that I have been in 3 different car accidents, and I've been hospitalized.
Oh, wow. Was it your fault?
No. One was in Chile. We were back visiting my mom's, where she grew up.
Okay.
And then another one was in like some town like Randolph, Utah, in the mountains. Mm-hmm. And then another one was when I was a kid, and I had to go to the hospital. Like, this is another thing, is like, I feel like somehow my life has been like spared for something, because I should have died like so many times. And yeah.
Well, so, the tuk-tuks in Manila are no joke. So yeah. What are they? Tuk-tuks. Are they tuk-tuks? What are the big fancy, like, they decorate them? What?
The jeepney.
Yeah, the jeepney. Sorry. Yeah. But yes. I was thinking Bangkok tuk-tuks and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I should have died in a jeepney too.
Oh, wow.
Many times.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't.
Me too.
If you could have a chat for an hour with anybody, whether they're still with us or not, who would that be?
It would be my grandmother. Yeah. She was a female pilot in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was just like a powerhouse woman. And she died in an airplane accident when my mom was 8.
Oh, wow.
And I never got to meet her, but everything I've heard is just amazing. So
that's impressive. Yeah, no, obviously my condolences, but yeah, that's still, back then especially, that's pretty impressive.
She was one of a kind for sure. Yeah,
definitely. Well, you've been all over the world. Obviously, you and I have that Asian connection. Where is a place, I should say, that you still like to get to?
So I really want to go everywhere.
Get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
So many plans, right? But next up, I'll just tell you, next stop is, so I speak Portuguese because I lived in Brazil, for a couple of years, and my husband does as well. Okay. So I want to go to Portugal.
Okay. I love it.
Because I might want to live there someday. I might want to live in every country.
I love it. I'm the same way. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you feel this way, maybe you don't. But yeah, I've got that like little clock in me that every 3 to 5 years there's something that just clicks, and it's like, okay, it's time to move on. Yeah, it's time to go somewhere. So this has been a real test of my foundation, so to speak. That I've been in Utah now. I've been back here because I was in Shanghai for a few years, just recently. But the 3.5 year mark, there's that itch that's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here still, or am I, trying to, nudge the wife, like maybe we should go somewhere, things like that. So I totally relate to that. But
yeah.
All right. Well, now I'm going to pick on you. We have exactly about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
You mind playing the rocks? Or?
Yes, I'll play. I'm wearing my pajama bottoms.
That's all right.
It's like a real Zoom call.
Yeah, that's all right. Comfy as everything. This is a treat. Everybody listening, this is a treat. This is Angela Soffe, The Rocks. Oh, good. She's bringing the guitar back. Thank you. This is, by the way, I got to let everybody know, I'm putting you totally on the spot. We never agreed to this, so you're doing this for free. So thank you very much. Everybody, I'm done talking until you get done, and thank you so much. This is The Rocks, right?
It's just called Rocks. Yeah. And it's no problem. This is what I do for my job.
That's right.
Sing songs. Yeah, and if anyone wants to look it up, there's a music video.
Is that on your website? Because I posted your website.
It might be on my website, but they can people can YouTube it as well.
Absolutely. I'm gonna type your name while you're singing. I'm just gonna make sure.
I wrote this song after I realized I had to leave Mormonism, and it really took the life out of me, and so this is I
got your back. I got your back.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
I don't know much about anything, but I know something is tearing me down. I wake up thinking about all the ways I don't measure up, and it hurts to let them down. So judge me, cast me your stones, I will lay them back at your feet. Take my hand, let's walk on mud. We like to throw rocks at the people who don't see the world in the way we do. I don't know why we all stand in a circle and point a finger or two. Tell me, how can you see what is buried beneath a mountain of smiles? We're all thrown in the same blue water of the unknown. So leave your rocks at home. The truth is not what it seems. We are told to just be believing. The story has never been told, and we all need someone to listen, to hold our hearts as they're beating with so much more than we see. But we like to throw rocks at the people who don't see the world in the way we do. I don't know why we all stand in a circle and point a finger or two. Tell me, how can you see what is buried beneath a mountain of smiles? see. We like to throw rocks at the people who don't see the world in the way we do. I don't know why we all stand in a circle and point a finger or two. Tell me, how can you see what is buried beneath a mountain of smiles? We're all thrown in the same blue water of the unknown. So leave your rocks at home. So leave your rocks at home.
I'm gonna give you a clap. There we go. Thank you. I'm speechless.
Thank you.
But thank you. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, it glitched out for a second.
Okay, you're good. No, you're good. Okay. That was a perfect way to segue out of this. But thank you so much for doing this. Stick around. I want to talk to you after we end the broadcast. Okay. But please, those of you that are watching, make sure you check out Angela Soffe. Obviously, I love that song, rocks, but she's got so much more. She's a talent, man. And Angela, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank
wow,
you.
Here, I gotta push this on here real quick. My buddy Tim Birmingham, he went to TAS too. Hope you can see that.
Thanks,
yeah,
Tim.
Yeah, Tim's gonna be on in a couple weeks. Yeah, Tim's gonna be on in a couple weeks, but he's a TASer too, so he may have those issues with ISM as well. So, but Angela, thank you so much for doing this. You are incredibly talented, and I truly, obviously respect you for that. But thank you for sharing your story. I truly mean that. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Stick around. Those of you that are watching, thank you so much for watching wherever you're watching from. Until next time. It looks like we have a couple weeks off, and then I'll be back. But thank you so much. This has been BenThere, Angela Soffe, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure you check out our website. And yeah, Angela, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.